master poll. Marty, would you be able to just introduce your department, what
Sure.
you do, give an overview of the budget?
Sure, absolutely. With me is Deputy Auditor John Hayes and Eston Adams, and Eston is by title Auditor 1. Quick overview of the budget. Not much has changed since last year. You'll see there are actually 4 budgeted positions, 3 of which are filled, 1 of which is budgeted and unfunded, correct, which was an agreement from the past that has remained in place between myself and the budget director. My salary is set by ordinance. The deputy auditor's salary has a range up to $64,707. His salary has remained constant since day one, and the auditor 1 salary is negotiated as part of the CSEA contract. That is essentially the only change in the audit department budget on the increase, because by contract it went up 2%, I believe. Is that what this year's? I don't even remember what the number was, but there is no. That answers that. The only change to the negative, you will see the professional services line is down to $12,918. That was agreed upon, with the mayor cutting all departments. Email exchange between myself and the budget director. That was where we cut. So
That line seems to fluctuate. How do you use it, and how does it vary?
So it does fluctuate quite a bit. The title is Special Project. Why do I not have? Is that in?
Special Projects Advisor.
Thank you. The Special Projects Advisor comes out of that. I call it the Ken McCrisky, title. Ken has helped out in the past. I hope that he will help out in the future, on larger special projects where his historic knowledge helps. I don't know. We don't have an anticipated audit right this second where he will assist, or any special project that he will assist on. But should that happen, that's where that would come from. Hopeful that it will happen, but nothing in the hopper as we speak.
Kind of projects that he worked on in the past?
A few. He helped out with health insurance back in 2015 or 16, and then last year it was police overtime. There was one other, and I'm drawing a blank on what the third one was. There were 3 different projects that Ken has helped out on. I know those are 2 of them.
Abstract.
Thank you. City County Abstract. Oh, you know what else he helped out on too was, I guess there was 4, Land Bank, the combined audit that we did on the Land Bank with this county controller's office. He assisted with that as well. Once again, hopeful to have his services this year, but don't have anything planned today. That's, in a nutshell, you're looking at 100, the total 2019 fiscal year 19 proposed is $167,000. Nothing overly exciting. No anticipated problems, no anticipated shortages or overages. I mean, with a staff of 3, and then the special projects, that we were able to keep it pretty much in control. I mean, office supplies are what they are. Copy rental, etc. Copier lease agreement, I should say. It's pretty standard. That's that's the long and the short of it. I gladly will go through any questions, but there's no exciting budget changes in audit today.
It feels much more exciting now that the table's more full. But so
I get a little more nervous. I'm like, all these questions are coming.
I'll just welcome everyone else. So 4th District, to my left, 4th District Councilor Latoya Allen, at-large Councilor Khalid Bey, 3rd District Councilor Susan Boyle, and 5th District Councilor Joe Driscoll. And with that, I'm happy to open it to questions to anybody here for Marty.
Questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you don't have tons of money, Marty. So
Marty, you cut back on your staff a couple years ago, correct?
So when that was quite a few years ago. When I arrived, we had a auditor 3, a secretary, and I think there was an auditor 1 funded and unoccupied at that time. And the reason that, by civil service rule, an auditor 3 supervises auditors 1s and 2s, and there was no auditors 1s and 2s, so the need or the, for that title didn't exist. So, yeah, but that's been at least 3, maybe 4 budgets ago.
Okay. Do you feel you have the adequate resources staff-wise to do what you need to do?
I'd be lying if I said yes. I mean, sure, we'd always like to do more. We'd love to have more staff. We'd love to, but it becomes, every department across city government, from police, fire, you see it, council, everybody's trying to do more with less, and sometimes you do less with less. You try to do more with less, but I don't know if that really exists. Our biggest costs across the board is personnel costs. Yeah, I'd love 10 auditors. I mean, it's just, it's unfortunately, the unfortunate situation we just went through. It's a little sad when the district attorney's office has more auditors than the audit department, but that's the reality of the size of a budget. So I'm not asking for any, especially, we know what the budget looks like. It's not where we'd like it to be, and I don't think it'd be responsible for me to ask for additional staff.
And what about your technology? Do you have computer programming that's current and up to date? And
yep. So we are, for the few things that we request and pay for, lease payments on the copier. Yeah, I'm an AS400 still for timekeeping, and I'm on PeopleSoft for paying the lease payments that I have to, or if we have to order, paper once a year. Usually I try to do it all at once, or pens or supplies or whatever the case may be. But yeah, we're okay with technology. I handle all that because it's just easier. But no problems.
I don't have any more questions.
Marty, could you speak? I have the audit from the Bonadillo group here. Could you speak a little bit to the interaction or non-interaction, or how you interact, like how the department fits in with this?
That's frustrating from my point of view, but frustrating but understandable, I'll say. Non-interaction, we have very limited. I have had conversations with principals over there, 2, 3, asked for more interaction, and it doesn't happen. Now I don't know if that's good or bad. I think when the more interaction means more problems usually, and but the interaction between Bonadeo and the city is primarily with the administration, whether I think it's more finance than budget, but no, this year 0 interaction.
And how do you typically identify projects? What's the process, and how? Yeah.
It's probably, from a personal standpoint, what I've struggled with the most. I will say what I think I've said every year at budget. I welcome your requests. They become the easiest for me to do. It's on task, on point. We're looking at something specific. Once again, with the staff our size, if we can dive down, to say, we want to look at the police department. Well, that would be a very general audit and very difficult in, and probably not effective. But then to say we want to look at the police department overtime, so it becomes specific and to the point.
Is even overtime specific enough?
Yeah, I think so. I think certainly, I wouldn't want to go into, I guess you could dive down a little farther and say we want to look at CID overtime, or we want to look at the uniform. You could probably dive down a little more than that, but it becomes you have to be careful for personnel reasons. I don't want to look at Officer Smith's overtime. That's.
I didn't mean like, yeah.
But it's, they become, the more you can dive down into a specific point, I think the more effective the audit becomes. So, just to go back and answer your question, we're constantly, the annual living wage compliance happens, cash and investments annually happens, Eston handles that. Residency complaints come in daily, it seems like. I hear of a police officer, DPW worker, Parks Department employee, etc., sleeping in the truck or something. Those kind of when the constituents get frustrated, I seem to get a lot of the calls that probably district counselors get as well, but they arrive at my phone. So we're chasing a lot of stuff like that, or trying to make it right. That doesn't really end up being a full-blown audit to any stretch of the imagination. But I don't have, and I haven't had a good system to say, once again, I don't think the staff isn't big enough, which is okay, to say we're going to go through every department every year and have something specific. It's been really random.
Who is actually tasked with enforcing residency requirements? Us?
Good question.
Like if we're notified of somebody not living in the city, then what do we do? Like personnel. It's just
it becomes personnel, and at the end of the day, it becomes legal, because we've had, we had a residency complaint that I thought was a really easy one, and the complaint came in, and they were very specific. John Doe lives, in Jamesville at this address, and it's the house they own. On the tax records, and they claim in payroll to live, on Salina Street. So we went and looked, and the individual had a star exemption for the house, and a resident star exemption for the house in Jamesville, and they had payroll in the city, department head records showed that they lived in the city. So I went to personnel and said, they're cheating somebody. They're either lying to their employer or they're lying to their state about where they live. You figure it out. Personnel recommended the person be dismissed. The person was dismissed, went to court, and the employee won. And we paid them back wages and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's, residency gets frustrating. And even when you try to enforce it, sometimes it comes back and bites you. That seemed to be a pretty easy one to me, but turned out not to be. And we get the other, Jane Doe doesn't live in the city. Where do they live? How do they, and I mean, that's, unless I had an investigator following people home, it's impossible to track, which we don't, and I don't want.
What were the topics you covered this past year, the current year?
We did cash and investments. We did police overtime was in the last fiscal year. We did living wage. That may have been it. I should have brought my list. I believe that was it for fiscal year 17.
Do you have any topics on deck, or I don't know if you don't do it, do you identify things you're going to do ahead of time?
We are in the beginning stages of a DPW project. Have had communication with the commissioner. It will be relative to their GPS tracking system that was put in place 2 summers ago, and you know, its effectiveness and you know, pretty specific. Should be interesting. But once again, I welcome cash investments. Will have it again. Living wage will have it again. And I welcome any ideas, thoughts that counselors have. That you know, your eyes and ears like I am out there. You hear the complaints that come in. You hear the things that you know seem to be that constituents want to say is abused or not. You know, and but if there's something you feel we should look at, you know, it can start immediately.
Does anybody else have questions for Marty?
We have an audit for you, though.
We can discuss it publicly now, or we can discuss it privately later. Either is okay with me. Perfect. That's outstanding.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right.
I wouldn't say like I said,
And I don't know that you